It's not reality.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about Naam Simran, and we already started talking about Naam in the last session, as always happens.
What you said, will you just, for the benefit of those that, just a little bit of summary of what you said last time.
Last time, what was last time about?
Naam Simran kya si na last time?
No, that's what we are doing now.
Oh, what did you do last time?
I don't remember.
Oh,
that was about Karam and.
Oh, Jamul did that?
Yeah, he took the whole session.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't miss it then.
So Naam, as you know, is at the very heart of Sikhi. It comes everywhere in the Guru Granth Sahib, in our last discussion and everything. And Sikhi itself has been described as Naam Marg. It's the path of Naam. Nanak ke ghar keval Naam. Guruji himself says that's all I have here in my house. House of Nanak is the path, is what Sikhi is. And it's filled with nothing but Naam. That's all it's all about. It all starts from there, ends up there. Everything ties into that. The whole purpose of life is union with God through Naam Simran. You know, Bhai Prapat Manuk De Hurya, as we see in the Rara Sahib every day. Gobind Milan ki eho teri bariya. Avar kaj tere kite na kaam. Mil sad sangat bhaj keval Naam. The goal is to become one with the infinite, and the way to do it is through Naam Simran. So we'll have to talk about what does that mean, what is it. And as if you do part, you see every single page, you find so many different references to Naam, so many ways Guru is telling us how important Naam is. And you also see a lot of references to Vaheguru with different names of Vaheguru are there, you know. Gurbani is full of them and his praises. Every page has so many things that are singing God's praises. So Naam is really what it's all about. The Guru also says that without Naam, life will be worthless. This is the one most important thing. Varna jahi jana bisrat Naam, Naam bihun jivan kaun kaam. You might as well be dead. What's the point being alive if there's no Naam? It's a way of expressing it that, you know, that's the most valuable thing. Everything else you're doing is of no importance compared to that, compared to achieving the spiritual benefit of Naam. Naam binani jivya jai, vade bhag gurmukh har paye. Life itself is so hard without Naam. It's a blessing.
Maybe other people have heard. What is the basic meaning of Naam?
That's what's there. Good question. And that's what it's all going to be about. Next slide. That's the best question when they're anticipating what's coming next.
You know, the student is attentive.
Yeah, okay. What is Naam? See? So the literal meaning of Naam, of course, is name, as you know, but it means a lot more than that. It's like it's a handle. What is a name? A name is something we use to refer to somebody. It makes us think of that person in terms of his attributes, qualities. So name can be a way we think of God or his qualities. It's one of the ways. And other words we see in Gurbani related to that is Simran, which literally comes from remembering, Smaran. So Simran is to remember, remembrance. I'm just looking at the literal meanings now that are associated with this. Then Jap or Jap, which comes from the idea of Japna, to repeat a word and keep saying it, Vaheguru, 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 Japna, Naam, Japna. Dhyan means to concentrate, meditation, contemplation. And Shabad is used a lot in many places, almost synonymously with Naam. And Shabad has been used a lot in Vedanta and Hinduism, Shabd. And in fact, in many of the religions, word and name both come in different ways, are very central to many religions in the early scriptures. And the Bible says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And similarly, Judaism has a lot about name and word. The Greek philosophers talked about logos, which meant something similar.
Tao talks about.
Yeah. Well, the word Naam itself, also in Gurbani itself, you see it in all the Bhagat Banis too, which predates the Gurus. So the Naam concept was around, it was there. Kabirji talks about it, Namdev talks about it. Even Farid refers to similar things, and he was from the 11th century.
So it's Naam basically your belief in God, that you believe in God, your belief in God.
All of that, and we are coming to that next also. Yeah. It's all of that and more. You also see the word Mant or Mantar in Gurbani a lot. And of course, people talk about Guru Mantar, Bij Mantar, Mool Mantar. And Mant is used a lot, Guru Mant in Gurbani. So the word itself has many different, it's a mystical word with a very profound meanings, and also very broad, gets used many different ways in Gurbani. It's used as an aspect of God himself, as a divine presence.
Naam is also hukam. Eko naam hukam hai.
Yeah, that too. There's no limit to how many things. Some people will tell you Naam is nothing but love of Vaheguru.
Yeah.
It is all of those things. But it's basically at the deepest level, that's one. So there are three different kind of levels. Broadly speaking, there are three different ways it's used. One is in the sense of an aspect of God, which can be love, hukam, or presence. We'll get into that. The next one is, it's a state or an experience of achieving, that you can achieve, that you can experience, you can get in tune with. A mystical experience of being one, sense of oneness, sense of, it's God consciousness. So you can say Naam is God consciousness or God awareness is one way of looking at it. It's being in tune with Vaheguru.
I think the last line is
And the last one is the important one, which is how do we get there?
the last line is very nice. It's the process. Or
It's a process or techniques also. But it's all of these. It's both the final goal, it's the process, and it's the ultimate everything that you get in tune with. So it's used in all these different ways in Gurbani. Okay, the process or technique is the one we are probably most concerned with, how do we get there? But it is used in all these ways.
To the logical mind, the first image looks like, it says it's a all-pervading presence of vibration.
It's God, basically.
It's God.
It's an aspect of God.
So you can say that
The Naam is God.
Naam is the God's vibration.
Yeah.
It can be Naam.
So Naam is God in a sense.
It's a God. It's a God
At that level.
vibration. And like in late Shabad, they say is Guru's Shabad. Through Guru's Shabad, you get to God's Naam. There's some Tukhe Ge Gurbani Nijat, but that's what it says. Through Guru's Shabad, you can achieve God's Naam.
So when you say achieve Naam, you're talking about either Vaheguru himself or you're talking about the stage or experience that we put as a second level here. So there are kind of three different aspects to it, just in a way of looking at it, breaking up all the different ways that Naam is used. That's one way of classifying it. So getting to what you were just talking about, it's the essence of Vaheguru himself. In Asa Diwari says, "Api ne aap sajo, api ne racho now." So it's something he created himself. Dui kudrat sajiye kar asan ditto chao. He created it before all his creation. So it's the foundation of all of creation is Naam. So he created Naam, out of which all creation sprang up from Naam.
And before that, it was all done.
Before that, there's nothing. It's just Vaheguru. So it's again just a concept, but it kind of sits between God and everything else is Naam. So it's something that comes out of him. So it is the essence of Vaheguru, an aspect of him. Think of it as a divine presence or vibration, as you were saying, and variously it's been called force or energy people use, and when they speculate about it, there's the divine force, divine energy that ultimately underlies and pervades all of creation. That's the point. It's everything is made out of Naam in some sense, and is supported by Naam.
Naam ke dhare sarle.
Exactly, we come to that. Exactly, that's the very next quotation. See, I'm doing very well. I'm writing these just before you come up with them. So it's the foundation, basis, essence of everything. Naam ke dhare sagle jant, Naam ke dhare khand brahmand. Everything is Naam. It's the underlying support of everything. And like Vaheguru himself, Naam is agam, agochar, unfathomable, incomprehensible itself. So we're only talking about it in human terms, but it's beyond human terms. It's something that you can experience, but you can't describe. It's incomprehensible. Kaho Nanak Naam Niranjan agam agochar hukme raya samai hai. So Naam itself is agam agochar. It's beyond our senses. It's unfathomable, inaccessible, and through His will, hukme raya samai hai. Everything is absorbed in it. It's everywhere. It's permeating, pervading everywhere. And it's a part of His will. So Hukam itself is, as you were saying, Hukam is also Naam. It's again different because, again we are using limited human ways of describing things.
Does it go Nanak, Naam Niranjan, Agam Agochar, Hukme Reha Samai?
Hukme Reha Samai hai.
Because of this Hukam, you can somehow in Naam, or is it doesn't mean?
Well,
I thought that's what
I think you can probably interpret it multiple ways. I thought it meant that Naam samaya hoya sab paase. And under His Hukam, or it is itself is Hukam. Hukam Reha Samai hai. His Hukam is
synonymous. What you saying is Naam and God are synonymous.
in a sense.
That's the
In a sense. Yeah, Naam is kind of the presence of God in a way, or a vibration of God.
The creator and the creation are the same, and
Naam is even before creation. It's between the creator and creation is Naam, sort of, in a way. The creator created creation using Naam, in a way, using Naam as the fundamental of everything. If you think everything was started from some kind of substance that he used to make everything, that substance was himself and it's now.
So that oneness is now. The oneness is
Underlying something.
Because we are part of divine soul, now we are.
Of course, the place to find Naam is within ourselves. It is within ourselves. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Dui Kudrat Saji.
Everybody can say, man, aap jab rahe hain, mere page mein naam diya hai, so
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Awareness, that's a good awareness.
Okay.
Faith is the right thing because Kundalini, which at the level, it's just dormant there.
Yeah.
That's what the yogis say. That's what Guru
capable of saying that. I guess.
So if you get to the next level of that hierarchy I had shown, it's the state or the experience of Naam. It's God awareness at that level in some sense. It's the state or experience of being in tune with the divine presence, of experiencing it. It's also referred to by many phrases, and people will tell you different meanings to these, but they all kind of come out of the same thing. Chautha Pad, what is Chautha Pad? You talk about 3 states which are just states of thinking or emotions. Satas, Rajas, Tamas. Satas, Rajas and Tamas. And it's beyond the 3 states in a way. It's beyond anything that we can think of. So that's why it's Chautha Pad. It's when you rise above your normal modes in which your brain operates. You go beyond that, you can call it Chautha Pad. And this Turiya Avastha and Sahaj Avastha is often refers to the same thing. Of course, the origins are a little different. Sahaj has to do with balance and equipoise, and it kind of intuitive flows by itself. You can't force yourself to be there. It's Sahaj Avastha, it kind of happens. You can't do it through heart. You kind of flow with it, like you surrender yourself to Vaheguru, and that's how you get this experience. So that's why it's Sahaj Avastha. And Dasam Dwar, because there are 9 physical openings in the body, but there's another connection. Everything is connected, and that's a path to Vaheguru. It's a path of experiencing, so it's called Dasam Dwar. Now the yogis will tell you there's a specific spot in the head along with the chakras and various other things. But from my mind, it just means beyond physical things.
Yeah, I think
but there is a seat of God. There is a seat of God that is that a lot of traditions talk about, including Tao. Huh?
Is it pituitary?
Yes. Yes.
Well, there are mappings to different things, but I think it's not physical. I think it's beyond all that.
Yeah,
I think those are just mappings.
Yeah.
The Tibetan yogis, when they talk about Vichaar, that part of it, in the end, when they go, many of them go sitting upright, and they say.
So sitting upright has maybe has.
There is something to that. There is something to be said about that.
But I think the way Viji put it.
But something beyond that is more. I think the real significance is beyond physical things, because Vaheguru is beyond physical things.
I think Viji, you said something. It was very significant. You said you see it as a Dasam Dwar because it's the whole Naam itself is your connection. So it's a Dasam because Naam is a connection of you with the God. So it is a Dasam Dwar. If there is no physical thing, then that's how you relate.
People who have done a lot of sadhana, and you read their I want to say diaries or journal or whatever, and their published works, they actually talk about the opening of the Dasam Dwar. And I have met people for whom the Dasam Dwar is open, for whom the Kundalini, the experience is very palpable. It's there, and there are times when one reaches those apexes, I want to say. So it's not. Yes, God is immanent in the creation; it's everywhere. But in the body, the temple of God, the seat of God. I think when people have localized this, there is something to be said about that. That's just my opinion.
Could be, but it doesn't matter. The point is there's something deeper that's more important.
Yeah, that's intellectual.
So we are trying to focus on the.
That's the process.
Ultimately, it's something
Absolutely.
spiritual, something beyond physical things.
But it's good to know that there are other traditions that have come to the same.
Well, actually, no, all of them don't. Only some of them talk about.
A lot of them do.
Others have totally different things that don't cover that. So
They have slow processes or the fast Kundalini opening, and there's so many different ways, right? They talk about.
because obviously Gurbani doesn't consider that to be essential, because it doesn't try to tell us anything specific about techniques or things like that.
There are very direct techniques written in Sri Guru Granth Sahib about the breath, about how when you breathe, the 2.5 inches. I mean, I have those quotations somewhere. I can bring them. And that is the process, and the reference to the two naris, the sushmana and all that, you know.
No, some people interpret that as metaphors. That Guru is saying you get the benefit of those through Naam, and you don't need to do all those specific things also. So there are different ways of interpreting it. Again, I won't get into that here. See, but people who have a certain belief, they interpret Gurbani to fit in that. And people who don't know that, they look at it differently. So we don't know which of those is right.
I think that Sri Guru Granth Sahib has the technique of Naam Simran, which is equipoise and all of that, but it is also practice. It is also sadhana.
Absolutely.
Vichaar, you have to sow it, and there is a technique, and I think that is part of the experience of Naam also.
There's a food of thought there, which is Guru Nanak Dev Ji, his style was very different from what the yogi style was. He is singing the name, and there is a strong relevance to that. There is a strong, and it's not completely incomprehensible either. If you look at how Sikhi has evolved over time, there's a strong emphasis on singing Bani, singing. So the fact that you can actually be in tune with Lord by just singing the name. So again, I don't know how
that's definitely
how true or not.
That's how Guru Nanak enlightened others who didn't know anything, because he used to sing for them or in front of them, and that's how they got enlightened with that singing thing. They won't understand what's going inside, but they got enlightened when he sang for them, right? So
if you read through Siddh Gosht,
how do you sing and actually get enlightened?
In the background,
well, if you look at Siddh Gosht, Guruji was talking to Siddhas, the yogis who practiced all these things, but in all his messages are all nothing about that. His message to them is about fundamental basic things, spiritual things and relationship with Vaheguru and all that. So he doesn't say anything about you must, in talking to the yogis, his answer to the deep real questions have nothing to do with physical postures or anything of that sort.
One very good
So the real message is deeper than that.
The yogis keeps asking them, what if this physical thing is not there? What if that nari is not there? And then Guruji explains to them, right?
It's very interesting, Viji. Anand has gone through, and Gurjot has gone through the Kundalini Yoga, the both certified teachers and all that. And I have done none of that. I have not gone through it. And Anand was telling me once that, Mom, I asked one of my teachers that the raising of the Kundalini, does one have to go because he's done white tantric and what all, right? And they told him, no, this is one way, but the Sahaj way is also equally potent and equally possible. So he's saying, okay, Mom, I think maybe what you say is also correct, that you don't have to go through all that.
Exactly.
But there is an important...
More so, because it prepares you, in every other aspect to bear that. So the quick ways, sometimes it leads to, the tantric way, for example, it leads to dementia. Or not.
That's black tantric.
Yeah.
Okay, we are jumping ahead a little bit to the process, but while still on the state, just a few more comments. It's an experience that is deeply spiritual and that cannot be described in human terms. It's the Adkat Katha, as Guru tells us many times. It cannot really be told. So all these descriptions we do from it, they're always limited in some way because we are trying to talk about something that we can't really describe. It's gunge di mithai, somebody who can't really speak trying to tell you what it is. So that's why it's all done in metaphors, and people get lost between the different faiths because through the metaphors they have to describe in terms of physical things, and then you take them literally, that can take you off in many different directions. So you've got to watch out for that. The people who experience it, it's primarily about Anand, the state of bliss, of ecstasy, and Gurbani is full of Anand. God himself is Anand Swarup. So when you are in tune with him, the main experience is one of joy, of bliss. And the word ras is used a lot. It's like Amrit, it's like, you're drinking something delicious, you're just feeling something wonderful happening at that time. But you can't really say what it is.
So when you are reading Guru Granth Sahib or you're part kar rahe honge ho, are you also basically Naam Simran at the same time? Can you say that while you're doing part, you're doing Naam Simran at the same time?
Yeah, and we'll get to that too, yeah. Right. If you can be in that, you can get. Yeah, I think it's a very important part of it. Now there's something more that you can do when you sit down and just contemplate on it. You can go deeper, but you certainly do it while doing part also. And sometimes when listening to Kirtan, you can really be absorbed and transported, and you can get some of that experience also.
There's a very sweet line, Vichi, that I don't know if you've used this. Haath pav se kaam kar chit niranjan hai. Yeah, you probably have it in the next one.
I don't, but that's a very valuable, important one. So part of the experience, as people describe, is listening to music. Some kind of vibration, some kind of tune. Anhad Shabad and other things come in Gurbani many times. That you listen to music, you are hearing music, and people who get to that stage, I haven't, but people who have talk about there's some kind of a tune, some kind of a music that you hear. And sometimes it's for brief periods of time when you are doing Simran.
Is it in only Sikhi because the Nanak was in the music, or is it other traditions?
Anhad Shabad, the word comes before that. It comes from yoga. The yogis all claim that they hear it, and they talk about Kinguri.
Religion. Anyway, they also
Sufis talk about it. Even though Islam doesn't let you use music, but Sufis talk about it and use it. Yeah.
I have a different philosophy around it, and I don't know if it's relevant or if you will agree with it, Viji. I think these are more than metaphors. These are experiential.
These are experiences. Right. Anhad and Ras are experiences.
Ras is experiential. Anhad is experiential. Light is experiential.
Yeah. But those are again human ways of expressing it. It's not real music, it's expressed as music. People feel that the best they can describe is light. Well, it's not like human music. It's not something you hear with these ears.
Yeah.
It's something beyond that. It's not something you see. It's not light you see with your eyes. It's something beyond that.
Yeah.
But the best way you can describe is light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of systematic. I mean, it's brought up that is systematic. ये जो काम सिंपली ट्रांसलेट करिए चलो मिसाल ले लो बच्चे के नाम बच्चे का नाम देखिए वो नाम वो दे पुत्र या प्रेम या कोई उस तो बाद ये वो इन्हीं नाम याद रखते वो मनाओ नहीं पड़ती है वो ट्रांसलेट करना सिमरन रिपीटेड डूइंग then ये वो ध्यान आ गया जस्ट का ध्यान वो बच्चे ध्यान रख रहे हो किधर नहीं जाते छोटा बच्चा और इतना प्यार करती है
कुछ भी काम कर रहे हो
वो ध्यान होता रहता
Yeah, there's a beautiful Shabad by Namdev that talks about that, which I actually have a part of it later on.
ये उधर बच्चे आके लवलीन हो जाए बच्चे के मास फर्क कोई
that sense of oneness.
Oneness. चार स्टेप ने जब ये काम अपने डेली लाइफ के ਵਿੱਚ ट्रांसलेट कर सकते हैं और ये नॉलेज so that's how the system is set up. You saw it step ਤੇ ਚਾਰੇ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਧਿਆਨ ਤੇ ਚਾਹਤਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਰਮਪਦ ਆ ਗਿਆ that you're one with one.
Bilkul. Oneness is a big part of that feeling, is everything is one. Unity of consciousness. So another aspect of it is, of that experience, is one of a sense of a spiritual high, and which in Gurbani there's a lot of analogy of drinking used in that, of liquor and being intoxicated many places. Like this one, Baba Manmat Varo Naam Ras Pive Sahaj Rang Rach Raya Ehnis Bani Prem Liv Lagi Sabad Anahat Gaya. I feel like I'm drunk all the time, I'm high, but I'm high on what? On Vaheguru's Naam. It's a spiritual high. Mind is intoxicated with Naam. It's Amrit Pina. Amrit is used a lot for this experience too. You're drinking Amrit. Amrit is Naam. It's Amrit and Naam in the sense of something that you feel like you are imbibing it. You're drinking something delicious. Literally, of course, Amrit means something that takes you beyond mortality. So it's something that connects you with the infinite.
Bliss is what they use also.
Hanji?
They are in bliss.
Bliss, yeah, Anand Ras.
Bliss is like.
And Sabad Anahat Gaya. So in that stage of being high, you are not only feeling drunk, spiritually high, you also hearing music. So these experiences are not limited to Gurbani or Sikhs. They have been described in many different traditions. Most of those traditions include a religious part and then a mystical part. Most people are following the religious part, and there are few people that are getting into the mystical part of it. Even in Christianity, there are some groups of monks that have been the Christian mystics, and their experiences are very similar to what Gurbani tells you or what the Sufis tell you. But most of Christianity is off doing other things. So similarly among Sikhs also, there are only few people who really go into the Naam Simran and the experience, and a lot of us are more into the superficial parts of it, going to the Gurdwara and going through your formalities of Nitnem without really getting far enough into it to try to experience the mystical side of it.
Good question.
Hanji.
So you're talking about whether or not, like, you talk about the breathing techniques or Palestine, and whether to take it literally or it's supposed to be as a metaphor. Why allow this ambiguity to people? Or, I guess what I'm trying to say is comparing it to Hinduism, for example.
They've laid it out.
I'm sorry?
They've laid it out.
That is, like in Hinduism, they have when you talk about Rajasic, Tamasic, or the other Pravrithian, and that's why they have slightly different ways for different kinds of people. So if your tendencies are like this, then you more suitable to, you both make more progress if you possibly, or for you it's in Jnana, or for you it's Bhakti. That's how they, we don't have anything.
Well, we have Naam Marg, which includes all of them. All three are in there, yeah. Your actions are important, you have to have pure actions. Bhakti includes Gyan, of course. The Gyan is the experience you get, the knowledge you get from Gurbani. And kyun that Gyan, Naam and Bhakti, those are the three, right? And Bhakti, of course, is central to it, devotion to Vaheguru. So all three are in there. So ours is more holistic, it includes those.
These divisions sort of propagate the idea that people are different. Now propensities may be different, but the core is one, right? So Sikhi is about, in my opinion, awakening the core, which is the same in everyone. Similarly, in the Hindu tradition, the caste system is also dividing people, right? That's so if you're a Brahmin, then you can only do the priestly things. If you're a Kshatriya, then you can be the merchant class, or if the warrior class, or the Shudra class. Well, we have to do all our tasks. We are the warriors, and we do our own, clean our own craft, and what I'm saying. So, Babaji was about, removing the divisions, removing the bifurcations, removing the fragmentation, and focusing on the core.
That's very well put. That's a big part of it. He didn't claim that they're doing anything totally new.
Yeah.
The truths have always been there, and the fact that they include the Banis of Bhagats who were around already, kind of validates that the truths have been around, and we are willing to take them wherever somebody had them. But we are presenting it to you in a way that you can relate to, and bring you the truth in a way that is easy and meaningful and not messed up over time as all the others get messed up. A big part of what we have, our biggest blessing is the Bani, because it was written by the Gurus themselves, and it hasn't been changed since then. So we have the original truths without being modified over time or reinterpreted by somebody. And Gurbani is already an interpretation, because things can't be put in human terms. So it already has metaphors and things like that. The Gurus could only express in human terms through metaphors, through examples, through other things. So you're already going through one big layer of that. And if it was people who listened to the Gurus, then go and wrote it, as happened with the other scriptures, then you're getting two levels of separation. And so we have that one big advantage. But other than that, we are not claiming to be unique. We are just more blessed in some ways, in this way in particular.
And the Gurus have said over and over, and different Gurus have said this. Like for example, Guru Gobind Singh said, "Ya Maidan Namukya Baki Padran Guru Nanak Saki," and Panjwe Pacha said, "Bulaya Boli Tera to Sahib Gun Kahera." So Bani Utri hai, meaning that it is something that they have become a vehicle, a channel for.
Turki Bani Ai.
Turki Bani Ai, Bulaya Boli Tera. You are the cause that is making me speak. To Sahib Guni Kahera. So this is not something that they came up with in the human form. This is something that they channeled.
So one of the things Sarnaji mentioned was the sense of all is one, oneness. So that is part of the experience. And many mystics have talked about it. One of the things they experience is the sense that we are all one, a sense of oneness, no separation between one and God, between me and you. That is part of the feeling that you get when you're perfectly in tune with Simran. So in Bani also, Guruji tells us in many places, Brahm dise Brahm suniya ek ek vakhaniya. It starts with Suraj kiran mile jal ka jal hua ram. And this part more specifically gets into that. Brahm dise Brahm suniya ek ek vakhaniya. Atam pasara karan hara prab binani janiye. So all is God, all I see is God, there's nothing I can speak of, only one. And this is the creation, the spiritual creation, the presence, and without God I can't see anybody else. This translation is slightly different. I'm sorry, the thing is too small here probably to read up there. So this Shabad is, usually people think of it as a Shabad for death, Suraj Kiran Mile Jal Khoja Hua Ram, but it's not about death alone. It's about union with God. It's about oneness. It's about that. But it's a good example to do at a time of death, but it's not about death.
Actually, you know what? It taints it in my.
People think of it as something sad.
It's a Shabad of joy, Suraj Kiran Mile. And we always, somebody dies, Suraj Kiran Mile.
No, it's a celebration. It's a song of celebration.
Yeah, and yes, death is a doorway, and so it's a celebration of a different kind. But to completely associate it with someone dying, I think it's not really to understand the meaning of the Shabad. Similarly, the Shabads of the wedding are not just Shabads of the wedding. Like I have told people that are near to me, that when I die, I want you to sing Shabads of wedding. You know? Because I don't want to say...
Well, that's what Kirtan Soila is about, right? People think it's about death, but it's not.
I've told Roma and Gujot and Raman what Shabads I want sung when I die. And one of them is Gavo Gavo Re Dulaniya Mangalchara.
Yeah, that is about the same thing. That's right.
So,
you're absolutely right.
I mean, I think we sometimes don't maximize the potential understanding of the Shabads.
In Kirtan Sola we have Sambat Saha Likhya Milkar Pawat Dev De Sajan Sisiyan Jo Hoye Sahib So Mel. So people think of it as about death, and it is about death in a way, but the whole thing is Sohila, which is a song of celebration. Sohila is what you sing at weddings to celebrate, right? So Vaheguru da Sohila kar rahe hain, we are singing these joyous songs.
You know? Titkar Gavo Sohila. Yeah, exactly. Let everybody know this is happening.
So the sense of all is, Vaheguru comes so many places in Gurbani. There's also Sab Gobind hai, Gobind bin nahi koi. Nothing but God. Everything is God. Soot ek man sansans jaise ot pot prab soi. So it's all like one string and everything else is beads strung on that one string. That's what all creation is. And that string is Naam. Naam is the underlying string on which everything is put together. Jal tarang arphen budubda jalte bhinna hoy. Each of us or everything is like a wave or a bubble in the water. We have come from the water, but we're all part of the water. There's nothing else eventually. They all merge back into it as well. A bubble bursts, eventually it's all part of water. Jal tarang arphen budubda jalte bhinna hoy. E par panch parpram ki leela bichrat aan na hoy. So it's all part of his play. If you really think about it or experience it, see it right, then there's nothing else. Aan na hoy. There's nothing but Vaheguru. So that is part of that, mystical experience from Naam that you hope to get to, this kind of experience. So what is Naam Simran? Now we've talked about the state, what ultimately Naam is and the experience, but how do we get there? That's what really it's all about, right? What is Naam Simran? And there actually is a lot of different views about it. And some people say Naam Simran just means repeating Vaheguru, and they talk a lot about how Vaheguru is Guru Mantra and give you a lot of proof of that. Vaheguru Guru Mantra hai jap ho main khoi from Bhai Gurdas and others. And others will say, well, Vaheguru doesn't even come in Gurbani for God, it only comes in the Bhagat's Bani. And so maybe that's not the issue, but and so on. So there are many different debates about it. So that's one of his repeating or chanting his name. And those who practice that can either do the Guru Mantra Vaheguru, or some people do Mool Mantra. Some of the Babas and groups do their own specific things. They make you do Naam Simran in different ways, different techniques or variations. Others will tell you Naam Simran is primarily meditation, contemplation. It's the focus, the dhyan is what it's all about. And you focus on a word, but it's eventually the meditation. And some of them will advocate specific posture, breathing techniques. They'll tell you focus on the third eye or focus on your navel, things like that. Others will tell you, what's this with Naam Simran? What's the point of just repeating a word? That's just mechanical, that's kind of primitive belief. It's all about Sifat Salah, praising God and experiencing that is what Naam Simran is about. Hanji.
So many people who say, I don't have to do part. I am just, as much aware of God as anybody else is. So basically,
I don't know if they are or not.
I'm just aware of God all the time.
But the thing is, he doesn't.
Well, the question is, does he just say it or is he doing it?
No, I'm just saying. Dhyan is one of the big elements. So basically, the two are in the same camp in a way.
Yeah, no, it's the connection.
You don't need to worry about what anyone is saying.
No. I'm just saying people. That's not the issue. My point is, to see Naam Simran kar sakte ho without going to rituals and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so technically 24/7 basically you Naam jap sakte.
Yeah,
Because you're aware, you're compassionate,
Right.
you're giving, you're kind. Those are all the attributes of God. And you know, you want to apply
Vijay, in
those
Gurbani, there is one, in Granth Sahib Ji, there is one main thing, is that you need Satguru, you need Guru's Shabad to experience Naam. There is a connection you need. So that's why, I mean, Guru's Bani bring us this connection. Unless you
He's
have
saying
an
no, you're
experience.
connected with the Bani. He's saying that you're connected with the Naam Simran. He's saying if you're doing that already.
Except that
However, Vijay, when you're doing that, you also need the cleansing of the of the mind, because otherwise how may aa jandi hai? If you're doing everything right.
But you don't have to go to the Gurdwara per se.
Sangat is very
I mean,
important.
honestly, this is a Gurdwara for me. As far as we are concerned, we are 9 people, 10 percent. This is a Gurdwara. I mean, this is Naam Simran right now. Because
Sifat
all we
Salah.
talk about this is typically Naam Simran. We are pushing it but we are really doing Naam Simran here.
Yeah.
Why? We are, aware of his presence.
We're doing Sifat
Well, I think this is Sangat certainly in the real sense. Sangat is the Sangat aisi jani hai jitho eko naam vakhani hai. That which puts you in touch with God is Sangat. And ultimately, the Sadh Sangat, the ultimate Sadh is Guru. Sadh Sangat is Sangat of the Guru. But the second level Sangat is through others who are also following the Guru. So if somebody else is following it, then we can learn from them. Anybody who's more spiritually advanced than us, they influence us.
Last point, that there is a benefit to going to the Gurdwara and listening to the Kirtan there in the presence of the Sangat. It's another tool that you have. That,
Right.
That's a very important tool. And if somebody feels that they don't need it and they're at that stage, well, fine. But for a lot of us, I think we do need that.
But different things have different effects for different people,
and
depending
different
on their
times.
stage.
And
Now,
different
some
times.
people may get more out of the kirtans you do in people's homes and a smaller sangat, but the Gurdwara may not mean anything because it's so impersonal. So it depends on the individual, whatever works for you.
Whatever. And somebody can listen to Kirtan and never go to the Gurdwara, but they're
Yeah, I listen to kirtan from Darbar Sahib in the morning, and I feel that's better for me than going to the Gurdwara. I feel like I'm at Amritsar
But then
listening
you're
to
right
it.
there. You are there.
Yeah, I feel
Virtually
like
there.
it. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, on the Sifat Salah part, some people really think that what real Naam Simran is looking at the names of God that are attributive names, which tell you the greatness of God and concentrating on His attributes. And that does work too, and that's what Jap Sahib is all about. It's a series of one after the other. Guru Sahib is telling you different attributes of Vaheguru, and as you focus on that is a form of Naam Simran too. Some people will say, Vaheguru doesn't make sense. It's really focusing on the attributes of Vaheguru, as in Jap Sahib. And of course, others will say, Gurbani and Kirtan are Naam Simran. It's why do I need to do any Vaheguru? And my answer is, Naam is a holistic practice that includes all of them. All of them are Naam Simran, they're all parts of it. If it puts you in touch with Vaheguru, makes you think about His glory, it helps you tune in, they're all tools to get you there, and they all have value.
Yeah, I think tuning is the
And in fact, if you only focus on Vaheguru, and you didn't do anything else, if you didn't do any part, then it would just be a word. Then it'll be like parroting something like a mantra, and people think mantra has powers, and if you say that, it'll get you somewhere. I think that's not going to get you anywhere if you only do it as a mantra, as a spell. It's because the word Vaheguru won't mean anything to you. The meaning of the word Vaheguru comes because you spent all that time doing part, listening to Kirtan, doing Nitnem, talking to people as we are doing here. What does Vaheguru mean to us? It's a union of everything we've been absorbing, and it's a process of the word getting meaningful to you.
The Christians say, praise the Lord.
Right.
Translates to Vaheguru.
Praise the Lord, yeah. That's what Sif Salah is the same thing. So all of those are all forms, but because they all help us think of Vaheguru and His praises, and Gurbani is full of that. And Kirtan in particular, the Bani has the added value because it's in poetry. It appeals to you at a certain level, internal level, that's more than just the intellectual level. And Kirtan adds the music to it, which again adds another level of how it's going to transform you. So they all have a lot of value in terms of getting that experience and transforming our inside and getting us in touch with it. So all of them are true, but I think the most and I think you have to start with that. Just doing Naam Simran at the very beginning isn't going to do much for you. It's going to be very less productive, and you'll probably get much more out of. Initially, Nitnem is what you get a lot out of because it puts you in a regular process schedule, and it forces you to spend a certain amount of time doing part. After a while, Nitnem becomes less meaningful because you're doing the same thing every day and become mechanical. Then maybe doing part from Gurbani will give you more because you'll concentrate more there, and Kirtan will give you more, and so on.
This sort of a ritual or not ritual, discipline and structure, you bring a structure and discipline.
But my point is there are stages at which different things can be more meaningful. They're all valuable. At the early stages, certain things may be more meaningful, but as you do part and Kirtan and start absorbing it and thinking about it, then the Simran part becomes the most meaningful, where you're sitting down and contemplating and really focusing. Then you start getting the most out of that.
I think
And the Right. Well, in the early stages, right. Also, before there were books, printed books, and CDs and everything else to listen to Kirtan to, or iPods, everybody didn't have any access to anything. So the Nitnem was great because a certain number of banis you could learn by heart. Even if you didn't know how to read, you could learn Japji Sahib and you could learn Ras, and so you always have that with you. So it was more valuable, I think, in those days. Now it's still very valuable, but now you have so many other options also.
I just think that the practice of Nitnem, whatever it is that you decide to do, whether it's 3 banis or 5 banis or Japji Sahib and Rai Sahib and so on, whatever it is, that practice, that discipline is equivalent to love. And I never used to do Japji Sahib every day, because I bachpan de vich maybe recording sikha se gaya, and I'm talking about like 20 years ago. And one day Papa said to me, I noticed that you don't do Japji Sahib. And I said, yeah, because when it's Purani Yagan, he says, understand this. Guru Nanak Sahib wrote it. All the Gurus did it. All the Gurus did Japji Sahib. Because their Guru Nanak, revealed it to them. And you think you don't need it every day? And I made a conscious effort to learn all the bodies at that time. And I rarely miss it now. And even if it gets mechanical, it doesn't get mechanical all the way. Just the recitation of it. Sometimes one tuk touches my heart, fills me with wonder. Sometimes another phrase touches me. Sometimes a lot of it touches me. But I will never say that in any recitation nothing touches me. And there is a comfort in it. There is a connection in it. There is a sense of being grounded in it. That I begin my day right after I take a shower. That there is a level of comfort. That is the best way. And I don't know, a beauty, a practice, a discipline, a love.
So it is interesting with Guru Granth Sahib, which we can notice, right? पहले रात को पहले सिर्फ किसा वाली सोता सोकर and then
and I think it's very.
And this used to be the part initially. This was the part of the thing.
And similarly, okay, so that's the beginning. Similarly, at sundown, when the energy is low, you are tired, you are exhausted. Anand has shared this with me. That mom, it's like rejuvenate. He says when I get tired, and it is sunset. It is sunset when there are times of the day when the energies are up and the energies are down, and it is very cyclical and it goes with the rotation of the earth. And to be able to do, even if you do chaupai, whatever your practice is, to be able to sit down and dedicate that moment to the Creator and to reconnect, I think it's very important.
For me, it's the car when I'm driving back.
And whatever. Similarly, when you sleep at night, again, somehow, for me, Soila has become a lullaby. It just puts me to sleep. And I would really emphasize having a practice of the Nitnem, whatever it is you choose, and I'm talking about 21 steps, it's very important. And your sadhana, your sitting down and doing Simran, and all of that is in addition to this. And that's my recommendation, based on personal experience.
Sure. Yeah, I used to do Japji Sahib, Ras, and Kirtan Sola as often as possible, almost always. What I've evolved over time too, rightly or wrongly, I do Kirtan Sola at bedtime. That is a beautiful lullaby. It puts me in the right frame. But the my morning program now is listening to Kirtan, and then doing Naam Simran, and then doing some part. Prakash and a few pages of part.
Practice.
And in the evening I have to do again for about 3-4 pages, slowly understanding it, and then doing, of course, Kirtan Soila at night. Then every time I'm driving, I'm listening to Kirtan. So the point is to spend a certain amount of time. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But Rara Sahib is such a beautiful part. And Chaupai is, I just think it's one of the most beautiful ones. Even if Raras is not possible, just to be able to dedicate those 10 minutes to a prayer, Hamri Karo Hate Racha. I don't think anything can be more beautiful than that.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think the point is probably to evolve and not get distracted.
My point is that,
I said, I'm talking about basics. In addition, you can do whatever. I mean, I'm just talking to all of us.
Well, you have to see what is doing the most for you. So what I've found is that if I'm just doing Raras every day, then it's becoming more mechanical. I'm not giving as much attention to it. If I'm doing part from Darbar, from Guru Granth Sahib, then it's different each day, and I'm paying attention to it. I'm trying to understand what it is. If I don't understand it, I look it up. So with the same amount of time dedicated, I'm getting more out of it.
That's fine.
But again, Rasa is very meaningful. I still go back to that once in a while, and I listen to it sometimes while I'm driving. I haven't eliminated that, but just a different form of Nitnem. My point is, each individual can find slightly different variations on it as long as it's all Gurbani and coming from Vaheguru, and as long as you're dedicating a certain amount of daily time. I think the discipline is more important than specifically what you're doing. It's getting a routine that's meaningful to you.
To basically support what you're saying, Gurbani is Jagme Chanan. It's the light of Gurbani that you have to experience and bring yourself into every day, different times of the day, so that you get re-energized and retuned, grounded and tuned. Vichi,
one of the most wonderful things we have these days is the iPhones or iPods where you can listen to Kirtan.
All the time.
So big part of my Nitnem is going for a walk for an hour and listening to Kirtan while I'm doing the whole time. And that is just so great. Suni Sachi Bani. सब कुछ
रोग संताप चिंता सारे चले जाते हैं it's a process which I think we need to apply, but unfortunately I don't know what percentage people do. If they do, I know they are active.
कई बार किसी का कुछ किया हो या मन में लग जाता है. It's like when Papa said कि सारे गुरुआ नहीं मिलता. It's something I'll never forget. I mean, Jagdisa. Wow, I want to be that,
This job is the introduction.
Yes. The essence.
So talking about the specific Naam Simran practice where you're sitting down and contemplating Vaheguru or repeating Vaheguru name, that is where you can get some of the deepest or strongest experience, though you can get it in all of them. And so when Guru Sahib describes that mystical state, it mostly refers to when you are doing dhyan of some sort, Simran of some sort. And of course, the best time is to do it in the morning. Vaheguru is traditionally accepted as a word to repeat. If you read Gurbani itself, there's so many different names that Guru has used. There's Har Har Naam Japo Man Mere, Saas Saas Simro Gobind. All of these words are beautiful. Any word for God will do. But of course, I use Vaheguru because we are brought up that way. I don't see anything wrong with that either. But I don't think it is that magical as some people insist it is. In my opinion, anyway.
I've seen so many different opinions. Some people take it literally.
Right. So they can have debates about which is the right mantra.
As long as one does.
Guru Granth Sahib Ji, mostly it says Har Naam.
Har is the most common one in Guru Granth Sahib. Har Har Naam Japo Man Mere.
Har literally means effulgence. Har 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 Har.
Hara.
It's easier.
Now some of the things that...
Actually, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, we have that.
The Bhagats have used it, and they have used it in addressing the Gurus. It's been used for Guru Ram Das, not for God. But of course the Bhagats, many people will interpret Bhagat Bani as being really seeing God in the Gurus, so it comes to the same thing.
The most emphatic reference of using Vaheguru as a Guru mantra is in Bhagavad.
Yeah, Vaheguru.
Now Guru Gobind Singh Ji's,
No questions over
Bilkul.
yeah, Dasam Granth uses
Yes,
it.
Guru Granth Sahib.
Yeah. So Dasam Granth uses it as the Mangla Charan in many places, Ek Onkar Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So the word Vaheguru does come there in Dasam Granth. Whether Guru Gobind Singh Ji used it or not, nobody knows the origins of the Dasam Granth fully. So, but it doesn't matter again. You know, Vaheguru is a beautiful word. It makes sense to us. We all use it. That's fine.
It's also,
I don't have any problem with it.
It's also very convenient in terms of the breathing pattern. You know, you inhale Vahe and you do Guru. It makes a really nice long cycle.
But you could do it with many different mantras that way.
I know, that's the way I feel. One day. No, that doesn't. You're right.
Now,
Absolutely right.
in terms of the Ardasit Kanya Vaheguru Naam Chatyave. Anyway, so I think one of the biggest components of making it successful is love. It's all about love and devotion. So without any of these practices, if you don't have love in your heart, I don't think it works. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Jin prem kiyo ten hi prab payo. And the word love comes so much in Guru Granth Sahib. Bhav, bhai, bhav anda bhav. And all these examples of the dhan and pir, the husband and wife, it's all about love, right? It's all the game of love. So that's an important when you're doing Simran is to feel, at least this, in terms of how I approach it, is to, you feel that God is all love and you're just enveloped with His love and you fill your own heart in love for Vaheguru. You're not just saying the word, but you're thinking of somebody you really love. So you kind of have to try to approach it that way, with that sense of love, bhakti, devotion. And the other important part is self-surrender, overcoming home. Because home is, Guru Sahib says, the biggest obstacle to Naam Simran. Home nave naal virodh hai, do nav se ek thai. So if there's home in your heart, then Naam cannot go in there. How do you overcome home? That's a lifelong process, and Naam itself is one of the solutions to overcoming home. But that is an important thing to keep in mind. So self-surrender is a big part of it. And self-surrender also means recognizing Vaheguru's hukam. So again, having that attitude that also of Ardas, it's Vaheguru himself who's going to give it to you. You know, you're sitting there before Vaheguru, but it's like you're saying, it's for God himself to give you Naam. You're just there asking for it. So there is that self-surrender aspect of it. Again, these things are hard to put in words, but it's a kind of frame of mind in which it's most effective. Because the biggest challenge is stilling the mind, because the mind wants to wander around. It can't stay still for one moment. And the more you focus on it, the more it wants to. Suddenly things you've never thought of suddenly come running into your mind, right, randomly. So that is the biggest challenge, is how to stay with it.
Zen books which I read, and it really appealed to me, this phrase. That, and actually I heard even our Guru Deepak Chopra mention it, that one of the misconceptions is that you have to empty your mind of all thoughts. Well, thoughts never stop. That itself is a thought, right? So the Zen philosophy is, treat the thoughts as guests. They come and they go. So just let them flow out. Don't struggle to stop them. And really, my experience has been that after you've sat for, in the beginning, and then as your practice gets stronger, you can do it very quickly. At least it takes 20 minutes for it to become sort of slow. Any koi thought nahi aanda, but the mind follows the body. When the body is still, the mind becomes still. And so when the breathing is, you become an observer to your own breath, the mind does slow down. You know, and I know in transcendental meditation, Maharishi Yogi would also say that as a beginner, do not sit for less than 20 minutes, because then you will not even experience the beginning of the stillness of the mind. That's just some stuff that over the years.
Yeah, I think the time varies from one sitting to another, and how much you achieve varies. It also depends on your personal cycles of your mind and all that. You know, some days.
I'm just saying in the beginning.
Sometimes man tikda, kadi ghat tikda. You know, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. It gets easier, it gets better. Yeah.
But in the beginning, like I remember when I heard this 20-minute thing, it made sense, and I felt that a minimum
it takes a certain amount of time.
30 minutes sitting helped Otherwise 5 minutes बाद तो उठ जाओगे तो मैं तो कुछ नहीं हुआ.
I think that the best practice is to be aware that you're having thoughts, rest of it.
Yeah.
And let them come and go.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
They just flow.
Pop.
Let
Let
it
them
just
come
flow
and go.
because you can't control. They keep flowing. That's
Well, the awareness and bringing it back is a main part of it, because sometimes when you start thinking other things, then your mind get engaged in that. One thought leads to the next to the next, and then you say, hey, where am I? This isn't Simran anymore. So you have to get back to it.
that guess, like let them flow.
Let them come and go. Because guess
That's a very good.
So sometimes you can't completely still it, but if you can bring it back to Vaheguru, even in little circles, wherever it's coming back to him, and staying close, that's pretty good, you know, even if you're running around that, but you're not somewhere else.
You know, that's why mantra is called okay, there's two meanings of mantaram, the waves of the mind, and man antar. It goes into the mind and it stirs the mind. It sort of takes it to the deeper level.
But one important point is, you know, the traditional yogic or even some aspects of Buddhism or others talk about mind being totally empty, shunya. And that is not Gurbani. Guru says think of Vaheguru, not think of nothing. So feel in presence with him, feel joy. Joy is not nothingness, right? The rest is not nothingness. So it's something positive instead. It's feeling joy and presence, and it's experiencing something rather than nothingness. But it's not your normal thoughts. I think a very nice analogy is of the waves on water. If you throw a stone in the water, you get ripples, and you can't see what's in the water. If there's wind, again you'll get waves, again you won't be able to see the bottom. But if it's totally still, then you can see everything at the bottom of the pool. You start seeing the individual stones and fishes and everything. So that's kind of what you have to strive for, is let those waves get a little still, so you start seeing the more beautiful stuff, you start experiencing the more beautiful stuff.
You sit quiet and say Vaheguru, Vaheguru. What kind of, sometimes the image comes, you know, what kind of image? You go to image of Guru Nanak, for example, or any way, we are all human beings. What image comes?
Push away the image and just feel the presence. Feel the love, feel the presence.
Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. Either mind distracts or some image comes.
You know, feels like
Yes, image which comes, you have to let it flow, but like he says, treat it as
if you focus on the image, that's a distraction. If you focus on a picture of Guru,
Picture, for example. Sometimes, you know, when you're sitting, like Sarsoba Singh, whatever he made the picture, that's an eternal image, you know, sometimes. You know, when you want to focus.
well, I think that's a great way to start, but I think you have to go beyond that. You have to go to where you're just experiencing a feeling rather than.
So what is the experience of Vaheguru? When you say Vaheguru, what is the experience you get in your mind?
Somebody, I think of love and joy and experiencing that presence. Feel divine presence rather than picture. But again, you can all do it different ways.
There are different stages.
As he said, we are all hardwired the same way, we think the same way, we feel the same way, but sometimes sharing each other's experiences,
Right.
you know, tell you, are you on the totally distracted path?
I think it's okay to have Guru's image flash.
We're a condition, but generally, you know, when feelings are, you know, like when you say Mandu Kabuli Karna, it's a common problem, you know. You know, these thoughts keep coming, it's a universal problem. So when you're, like for example, you know, Guru Nanak Sahib did a photo at some time, you know, even when I was a child, right from the childhood, that's the first picture that comes.
If that helps you to bring the mind back, there's nothing wrong with that. But as you
stop coming when it has to stop coming. I think what's more beautiful than, you know, what is considered the image of Guru Nanak Sahib. It's not the real image, but it makes you think of the light of Guru Nanak. It's fine, I think. But you'll move away from it.
Talking to a Buddhist monk on the other day, what they do, they focus on their nose, even eyes closed.
Half closed.
all right.
They focus on
the
themselves
breathing.
basically. And so that was their.
I think it's bringing to stillness the
But
main.
if Babaji's picture comes, it will go away. I mean, as you get deeper and you think of
It's
the
okay,
sound.
this is the thought of, you know,
Yeah, you're thinking of your Guru, you're thinking
spiritual
of
thought, it's a spiritual thought.
I mean, a lot of people who are purists will say, oh, no. You know, I know of a preacher who's very enlightened and very, very learned. He says that don't even connect with the Guru. But my connection to Gurbani came through the Guru, through my love of the Guru. You know, everything I learned about the Guru. So I think a connection with the Guru is a very beautiful connection.
About the thoughts coming and going, I just remember I read like Dr. Wayne Dyer's Gap.
Yeah.
So he says that like jada one thought ke baad dooja thought hai, uski jada gap hai, you have to like it slowly starts increasing, you know, as you meditate more and more. So I think that's also very,
That's very true.
what it is, you know, your thoughts will not stop coming, but the gap will start increasing.
If you're able to bring yourself back and get into that, create the gaps in the middle instead. That's one way of looking at it.
That analogy of the water, I think that's very, very profound.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the Korean, in the Zen tradition, they have just like how long can I meditate? And the master says, how do I know? He says, but it's a little longer than the first impulse to get up.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes is somehow the magic number. I've heard it in many places for beginners.
I have experienced it when I was very young, when I was in my 20s. I started going to Maharishi's meditation. And honestly, 15 minutes till lagta si aaye kado khatam hoega, you know. And then after 20 minutes, it's sort of time. I would think I've sat for 10 minutes, and sometimes it's much longer after 20 minutes.
No, I used to look at the clock. Then I found that was a distraction. So again, found the iPhone is great. You put a timer so it'll beep to you after 20 minutes or 30 minutes. This way you don't have to look at anything. You know, if it hasn't chimed, it's not time yet. Don't worry about it. Push it away. It'll tell me when it's time.
And I just put it in my lap and I'm like, okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to, the water analogy. One of the Zen masters says, he's a Korean, he doesn't speak much English, but he will say, no mind.
What did he say?
No mind.
No mind.
The mind like no mind, you know. And he says it's not important to have any image per se. He says the water like mind. Why does he say mind like water? Mind like water because he says it offers the water. When you talk about throwing the stone and the ripples, and you talk about letting the thoughts treat them like come and go. It's the same thing actually, because a thought comes or a distraction comes. You offer it just the right amount of resistance, just like the water does.
But gently.
But then very quickly, it allows it to settle. Not offering too much, not overreacting. Oh, I have to push.
Sahaj karna hai. Hat nahi karna. Yeah. Yeah.
You be the base of the water. Let the things flow up, the waves. That's kind of what
it's interesting that when it comes to these things, all these different things combine and have very similar concepts.
Yeah, the mystical experience.
That's
In terms of duration, what I find at least is that about 20 to 30 minutes, my foot goes to sleep, so I have to pick it up anyway. I can't sit that much longer for physical reasons, so that's about the right amount.
I've also felt that there are certain spinal exercises, and we do that when we meditate. We've been doing once a month ladies meditation at my house. So we start off with a little bit of yoga, spinal flexors. It's a huge difference in terms of your ability to sit uninterrupted.
I mean, Yogi Singh, a lot of Sikhs that actually have gone through that process, right? I've seen them sit for 4 or 5 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And I'm amazed because I can't sit. And having come from India where we used to sit down in the Gurdwara so much, we can't do
Vijay, do we have time to do like one little practice of a thing that...
We should do it some other time.
It's not 30 minutes, it's 10 days.
10 days.
And it's silent
24/7.
You can't have any gadgets, you can't even have not even a notebook and a pen.
No gestures.
So, and it's called Arremo, means the noble silence. So you're not supposed to communicate even by gestures. You don't look at, so people don't look into each other's eyes. So ideal location would be, now they're building it like that. So you're on the same, pretty much same physical location, but you don't look at anybody. And you just listen to the instructions of the teacher's aide, they call it, the assistant teacher in the evening. And it's mind-boggling. The first couple of days, first 2 to 3 days, it becomes so loud, the noise, that you think, oh, mere bina kaam kitna chal raha hai, kitni okay ho rahi hogi, bachya nahi samna, chhadna, ye wo, all kinds of excuses, and all the things that you've never thought of, all the pains and aches in the body, because you're sitting for 10 hours at least. You sit from morning to evening, just breaks. The food, शाम 5 बजे के बाद शाम 4 बजे 5 बजे जो चाय उस दिन आप केला से खा लेते हैं वो भी जो पहली बार जा रहे हैं the repeat students don't even do that उस बाद कुछ नहीं होता
not my kind of thing.
And after fourth day it starts to settle down.
Wow.
And then it's amazing. then then you know that they call it a boot camp because they say that that's the 20 minutes for them. Like that's what you need to really get started, just to experience it, so that you are convinced, so that you don't need convincing again. I thought it was wonderful.
Wow.
And it gives you bragging rights after.
I wouldn't be able to. But there is a mantra that I've been practicing, talking about mantra, which really puts you in tune with the Naam. And it is something, again, that the Kundalini Yoga people started. It's 2.5 cycles of breath. And it's Ik Onkar. They call it the long Ik Onkar. And just do it on your own if you can. And it's like this Ik, and then long Onkar, and then Sa, and then Naam, Sri, and then Vaheguru. So what it does is, it creates the vibration that you can tune into. You know? It's Ik, Om, and we've done it in unison, and we've done it alone. And that sound of Naam and Om, oh my God.
Is it something to do with the breathing, remember you said?
It's 2.5 breaths. It's 2.5 long breaths.
Using those words, in that frequency, they're basically training your breathing exercise.
It's our basic mantra, Ik Onkar, right? That's all it is. Sat Ik Onkar, Sat Naam Sri Vaheguru.
Yeah.
It's the basic mantra. But they call it the long Ik Onkar, and I've been doing it. It is amazing. It is amazing in terms of just letting you flow in that vibration and connect you, and there is so much that you experience in terms of.
I'm using a CD somebody gave me. It's by these American Sikhs, and it's a lady who sings it. Her name is Satnam Kaur. I think she is that. That CD is so intoxicating to me. I really listen 2 hours a day here and there.
What is the shabad?
There's a lot of it. Basic is Vaheguru, Satnam, Ek Onkar, Mool Mantra vagara. Then first one is Guru Ram Das. It is.
Guru Vaheguru.
It is, and then Vaheguru Satnam. It's amazing.
But I'm finding
those kind of things.
Yeah. This 2.5 breath cycle, and it's supposed to form an 8, which is infinity. I mean, I don't worry about those things. But I do it only because it's in Singh Granth Sahib. It's the opening of a lot of Shabad. And it's amazing. Because it has these long Oms and Naam, and it just puts you in tune with the vibration.
So one of the other questions that comes up is, when should you do Naam Simran? And Gurbani tells us, Har Simran ki sagli bela. So any time is good for doing Naam Simran. But it also tells us that the best time is Amrit Vela. There's a lot about Amrit Vela also. Satgur ka jo sikh khaye so bhalke uthar naam dhyave. And interestingly enough, this talk about Amrit Vela comes in the Banis of every single Guru. You can find some Shabad that talks about the importance of value about doing in the morning, how beautiful it is. And not only that, but all the Bhagats do it too. So you find it in Kabir Ji's Bani, Farid Ji's Bani, and Namdev especially. So they all talk about it. So there is something very special about doing it early in the morning, before you start getting caught up in the world while everybody else is sleeping.
Makes sense.
And when you are still fresh, your mind hasn't gotten stretched in too many directions. The chatter isn't as intense yet. It's easier to get it back. So it seems to work very well if you do it first thing in the morning or very soon thereafter. But the Guru also tells us that it not only is any time is good for it, but ultimately we should do it constantly. Raat din as par bhat tu hai gavna. Day and night we should be doing it. Saas giras we should be doing it. With every breath, with every morsel that you swallow. And how can you do that? I mean, you can't really. You have to do other things too in your life, right? You can't be only doing Vaheguru all the time. I think the sense is that once, as you practice it for a certain amount of time every day, it becomes so much a part of you that while you're doing other things, at a certain level you're still in touch with Vaheguru. Yeah, you're in tune all the time. There's God awareness is always there. If you find yourself getting angry at somebody, you'll recognize ka nahi kar sakte because Vaheguru is there, and these kinds of things. So it's this at a level just below your conscious level. You try to always be in touch with Vaheguru. So that's what the Saas Giras means.
Example about the mother and the child comes in.
Yeah.
The mother is doing all kinds of things, but consciousness is in the child.
Yeah, there's whole. So Bhagat Namji tells us very, very explicitly how to do it. He uses the example of the boy flying a kite. Anile kagat katile guddi akas madhe bharmiyele panch jana se baat batawa cheet so dori rakhile. He's chatting around, they're playing, they're doing everything, but they're still, the kite is flying, they still have to pay attention to the string. You can't let go too long or you're going to lose to the other guy, when they're having their fights.
Like sometimes we reach office without even knowing we're drunk. We don't.
Sometimes we reach home when we're supposed to run some errands. The car just brings us home.
Man Ram Nama Bedhyale, jaise kanik kala chit mandhyale. So the guy who's working with gold, the goldsmith, he has to work with such precision. He has to have real focus. But even he can be talking to other people, but he never loses that. And then he says, Anile kum bhraile udak raj bhuar, raj kuar purandariye. Has binod vichar karti hai cheet sugagar rakhile. So they can walk around with these pitchers full of water on their heads and they can chat with each other and laugh and gossip, but they're still able to balance that on their heads. And in the same Shabad there's also talk about the mother and the baby. The baby is in the Pungura and she does everything else, but she never forgets her baby.
Very sweet. And that's why Babaji also says Sandhya Kalandya Kadandya
Kanya Viche Yeah.
Love that line.
So Sas Giras is very important. You get to this stage. It's constant awareness, constant divine consciousness. Yeah. So the Gurbani is full of the rewards. Why should we do Naam Simran? And we've already talked about some of these things here between the previous session and this one. And the list is so huge that I'm only touching on 2 or 3 here in these slides. So the biggest benefit, of course, is this is how we get in touch with Vaheguru. This is the ultimate solution, salvation, to become one with Vaheguru and get freed from the cycle of karma. But that is kind of a long-term goal, right? After we die, we'll become one with Vaheguru. Jivan or you might even get within life. But Naam has so many benefits for you right here today in this world. You don't have to wait to the afterlife to enjoy the benefits. It improves your life in many, many different ways. They start flowing right away. Lok sukhi parlek suhele. Parlok suhele. Bhakta sada vigas. You're always full of joy, right? That's a good one. So you're always in Chaddi Kala, you always have an even keel through life's up and downs. That's one of the biggest things that gives you faith and strength. You get transformed over time to where things don't bother you. You have this stability. Things won't get you upset. Things won't get you overly excited either. So you have a kind of a floating above things kind of concept. And there's this beautiful Shabad, Jatu mere val hai to kya mo chanda. If I'm in tune with Vaheguru, then I don't have to depend on everybody else. I don't look up to anybody else. I don't depend on anyone. तो सब कुछ मैंने सौंप पे आजा तेरा बंदा. I'm God's own. He's taking care of me, so I don't have to worry about anything. Lakshmi tot na aave khai kharch rahanda. You don't even have to worry about wealth. You may not be very rich, but He'll always give you enough. You'll always manage. And besides, there's more Lakshmi than wealth. There's all kinds of wealth you get, which is spiritual and emotional and other kinds. Lakshmi Rasi Medani sab save karanda. Everybody is serving me, so you start getting into conflict with everybody. It seems like people are suddenly all becoming more friendly towards you because you have good thoughts towards everybody, and everything kind of starts falling in place. A very mitra sab kitya na mange manda. All my enemies have started becoming my friends. Lekha koi na puchai jahar baksanda. And God Himself is going to forgive me. Then all my past sins and everything else, nobody's going to question that anymore because even Jam will be, will ignore all that and recognize your Naam. Anand bhaya sukh paya milgar govinda. So you're always in a state of happiness and bliss and upbeat. Sabhe kaj savari jatud bhavanda. So you have this faith that everything is falling in place. God's going to take care of everything for me. So that's one of the big things from Naam, is this positive state of faith and optimism, which is what Chaddi Kala is all about. Then somebody mentioned the healing power of Naam. Tusi koi ek shabad dasya si ede bare. Tap aap santaap bina se dukh rog santaap utre. So it has tremendous healing powers at the physical, mental and spiritual level. The spiritual level is the most obvious, but even has very positive effects at the physical level and certainly at the mental level. Sarv rog ka aukhad naam. And of course it transforms us, and it helps to purify ourselves, to make us better people, help us recognize our weaknesses, overcome Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Hankar, and this beautiful Shabad that I'm sure you'll be coming to very soon in Japji Sahib. Bhari hath pair tande pani utras ke mutkal paliti hoy di kapad hoy desa unlaya dhoy bhariya mat papa ke sang odho pe nave ke rang. So it's the love of Naam that's like soap that will help us eliminate. The question you were asking, how do you overcome them? So Naam Simran is the ultimate path towards overcoming them. And there's so many references, so many rewards that we can't even list them here. But Sukhmani Sahib has entire sections that just go on. Prabh ke Simran, dukh jamna se, Prabh ke Simran hai hoye. It goes on and on. The rewards, the benefits are just so many. It's so
just like
multifaceted.
Infinite, the
benefits are infinite, right? Everything you can think of now is going to help you with it.
Very Very nice, Vichaar. Very comprehensive.
Now, we talked earlier about actually having a session to do Naam Simran. Since we talked about it today, maybe next month would be a good time to do it. Because right after we talked about it, we can come and practice it. And I think Jesse is great at that. Maybe you can bring some beautiful music. I think that's what I was going to say. Bring some good music for it.
And we will do a little bit of, I think we should bring our yoga mats.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I definitely need that.
A little bit of flexing of the spine and then getting comfortable and then doing it for 31 minutes minimum. We can try different things, but the one that we've done a lot of is just simple Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru.
I think that music you had at your house that time is pretty good too.
Vaheguru,
the New Year's Eve, that would be pretty good. You can do that.
You couldn't come.
Okay, Changaji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.